started with collaboration. We thought it was a great idea, and we haven't changed from that. Although the way collaboration happens is evolving. New technologies and new things available to us allow us to collaborate locally and at distance in a very, very interesting way. And the notion about it is that we're looking for good ideas, not whose idea. So any good idea at the table is fair game.
That's a great question. It's so timely too, because we're kind of reinventing our website right now, and not only do we want to show our great architecture work, but we want to show how people use the spaces. So not only are we looking at the design that we've created, but how people are interacting with the design. And you know, I can think of 3 or 4 major projects in the city right now that have really affected the community. I think about the Liberty Hotel, which was sort of a catalyst for change for that whole neighborhood, with MGH and the kind of synergy between all those buildings. Obviously the aquarium back when we first started was a whole catalyst for change in that community. The T stations that we just finished in Dorchester at the end of the Red Line, that's really opened up a whole branch of the Red Line stations that no one had experienced before. And then Charles Square, that we had a brownfield site, and that changed completely the lay of the land in Harvard Square and how we view that whole neighborhood to this day.
I think also because we've been around a little longer now, since the days of the first G projects, and we were setting standards to a certain extent at that time. Now we've had long relations with these same clients. You know, our very first client was the New England Aquarium, and we're still working with them soon to be 50 years later. And those relationships have helped us collaborate with them in a way that does engage the public realm. And I think specifically now of the aquarium and the Children's Museum, another long time, where we literally have been exploring with them, moving outdoors, and we've become, you know, great fans of the Harbor Walk. And so suddenly the Children's Museum is one of the first buildings in town whose front door is the Harbor Walk, who sees the public realm as a kind of win-win. And so we engage the Harbor Walk, and suddenly our outdoor exhibits are more exciting. We really are excited about any of our museum projects or our hospitality projects spilling out, just becoming part of that neighborhood, that part of the community.
Another aspect of the collaborative process is that because we have a wide range of project types, we're finding that different projects are informing other projects. So when the University of Massachusetts wants to explore an interactive theater, we go to the New England Aquarium and look at how they're doing that with the public and with videos and other things to actually determine an outcome. So we're finding that these projects inform each other, and at the basis of it, it's all about making things accessible and available and intelligible to the real users, which is the public. Because most of our projects are founded upon the belief that we hope we can improve the public realm by doing projects that invite the public in, whether it's a hotel, or a museum, or an aquarium, or an education facility, or a transit facility. It's all about having really a third-party public, other than the client, benefit from what we do. This is the Where's Boston Pavilion, and this came about because Cambridge 7 was a consultant to the city of Boston to help them organize celebrating the bicentennial, and an organization called Boston 200 was formed, and out of it came 3 major exhibits, one on the 18th century, one on the 19th century, and one on the 20th century. And this is the exhibit about the one on the 20th century. And it was really conceived as a way for Boston to talk about itself.
There's 3,100 slides in this show, and in its day, it really was the epitome of multimedia. The slides were on 8 screens, and as you look down here, this was the entry into the pavilion itself. There were 8 screens. They were constantly going. There were 40 projectors. There was an incredible soundtrack. and it told the story about the neighborhoods of Boston. It used the marathon as the kind of anchor, and as the marathon found its way through the city, it visited all these different neighborhoods. And I think one of the things that you don't quite capture here is there was this soundtrack that was not a narrated story. It was the voices of Bostonians. You heard every accent possible. You heard Back Bay Brahmins. You heard people from Southie, and they were telling their own story. So as this marched through this unbelievable rainbow of slides, the audience was captivated. It was Boston.
"10 smoots across Harvard Bridge." Okay, so now we'll go to the word wall and find down. The definition is a measure of distance at MIT. So now I understand the connection between the actual word wall and how we displayed it at Where's Boston? This was 1975. This was our technology. We asked a question on a wall, and then we told the answer on a kiosk. One of the nice things about the T project was that you were always underground when you were in the T station, and so having these graphics that showed what happened above ground, like the view in Arlington and the view of the park, was a key idea we used in this wayfinding effort we had. You know, I look at this map and it reminds me of being a kid in Boston, and my mother would tell me to get on the T and go down to Filene's basement by myself when I was about 10 years old, and I had to use this map to find my way on the Green Line, and never failed me. I always got there.
When I first came to Cambridge 7 in 1965, I spent 2 years working on the guidelines for transforming the MTA into the MBTA. The city got money from actually Housing and Urban Development to make the system work for people. And the whole idea behind this was to make it easy to use and to help transform it. And what these drawings represent are pictures of the existing situations that we found and quick sketch ideas that we show how to transform them, eliminating advertising so you had direction signage to take you where you want to go, thinking about how you would call out the name of the station rather than look at all the advertising. The second part of the effort was to come up with 3 or 4 manuals of design guidelines. Some dealt with graphics, some dealt with circulation, some dealt with materials, some dealt with lighting. We did a transit car. We developed some policies, and this is where the collaborative interdisciplinary aspect of our office really sang, because we had people that were really interested in these different aspects of the project. We designed a transit car. We designed the current turnstiles that are in the MBTA today. We designed some other hardware, and it really was about integrating from a design perspective all these things that you touched or you saw and you used to understand the systems. And what emerged out of it were guidelines that we did one station, Arlington, as a prototype and test case. The MBTA then proceeded to hire probably 20 or 25 other architects to do renovations in stations and then eventually new stations. And the new station that we finished today in the last 2 or 3 years at Ashmont and Fields Corner still incorporate these guidelines for directing how the station should be used and how it should be developed.
Chuck mentioned the Arlington prototype, and this really fantastic model is kind of the centerpiece of this part of the show. And it is the Arlington Station. One of the things that grew out of this whole standards process was essentially branding for the whole MBTA, the invention of the logo itself, the new name, the T, and you can even see they've modeled here the beginning of the wayfinding at the surface as you come down to the station itself. The integration of all of the graphics here, and besides that, the fascination with this terrific model. But what was important to us in doing all of this was the fact that we were prototyping. It was a very new kind of a way to approach an architectural design at the time, where you actually take all these ideas, you test them with a client, you work it out, but then you build one station and you invite the public to use it. And we learned from it, and things evolved and were improved based on the fact that both the MBTA and all the people involved were willing to do this kind of an experiment and to spend the money and the time to really see if we got it right. And it stood the test of time. It has survived many, many years now without really a lot of modifications. And it's constantly being applied over and over in new and interesting ways.
This has been so fun for our office to, our office is a group of different generations collaborating, and this show really showed the younger generation in the office what our roots were. And it's been a fun journey to kind of listen to architects in the office talking about the show and talking about the projects, and what I realize is that all the values of these projects are what we still use today. So great wayfinding, graphics, architecture, the synergy of how we collaborate, they're all still with us and they're all still relevant. So it's been a really fun process.
It's been a great excuse because often young people come to your office and you say, please go to our slide library,
Right,
please
right.
talk to this person or that person. Never happens.
Just go watch those slides.
It never happens. And so understanding some of the ideas and where they came from, this exhibit really opened those kind of doors and really made it very, very present.
And gave them a credibility that was
Yeah.
really kind of special.